I'm Jeff White from VirginiaSports.com, and I'm here on this early signing day with head coach Bronco Mendenhall. Bronco, 10 players signed with UVA today. 9 of them are high school seniors. The other is a transfer from the University of Wisconsin. First of all, what are your general thoughts on this class?
I think, first of all, they're amazing people in today's age of uncertainty and of transfer and of commitment or non-commitment. These young men and their families are, I think, exemplary, and I'm so thankful for their commitment. I love their ability. They're aligned with the University of Virginia in terms of the values, but also the ability to help the program move forward. And in a very unique transition time, they've provided a really nice sense of stability amongst really unique circumstances.
With current college players having extra eligibility because of the COVID year, roster management has become more complicated for coaching staffs. How big of a challenge was that for you when you started putting together this staff, this class?
Yeah, it was and still is. And so the unique challenge that every college coach is facing is that the players that have an additional year now because of COVID, they're playing their season, and you really don't want to interrupt that with thoughts of, are you coming back, are you not coming back? And then there's this time period, whether there's a coaching transition or not, between the last game and the bowl game, to then approach that. And so and this is regards from coach to player, your thoughts are coming back or not coming back. Well, in the meantime, during that entire span, you really have to prepare as if those players are not going to come back, which means you're recruiting high school players. Now, the unique challenge would be is if those players that are on your existing roster with experience choose to come back, and you've committed and accepted commitments from high school players, and then you have to at some point then say no, which is a really poor position to be in. And so the uncertainty and the lack of clarity makes it really challenging, knowing that you want every opportunity for existing players to stay. But in the event they don't, you have to be prepared with high school players. And so you're making decisions on limited information against a time frame, and it's really a challenge. And so a lot has to be done with the calendar, a lot has to be done with timing, a lot has to be done with the processes. Certainly something has to be done with the transfer portal and kind of the free agency window of possibly from this date to this date. You can enter the portal and be recruited, much like the NFL, but open-ended makes it really difficult in terms of managing the roster, which ties to the question. This
class is likely to grow later on. For now, it consists of 10 members. If you will, let's go through the group.
Sure.
2 of the incoming players were high school quarterbacks. Davis Lane played in the ultra-successful program at Liberty Christian in Lynchburg. Delaney Crawford is from California. What did you like about each of those 2?
Yeah, unique skill sets. Davis Lane, wow, did we vet him and work him and test him in every possible way. So besides his game film, and he came to camp, right? And then there's all kinds of drills we put him through, and he kept answering the challenge and answering the test and answering the challenge. And his mobility, his speed, his arm strength, his accuracy, and his leadership. And we couldn't have turned him upside down and shook him anymore to see what kind of fit he would be. And Coach Beck ultimately just said, man, he has to be at UVA, and he has a very bright future based on all the quarterbacks that we've trained. And all 3 here have been very, very good, and we think he has a chance to be another one of those with his own unique skills. And we love who he is. And as a student, he's just, a lot of great things about him.
Delaney Crawford was, I think, a relatively late addition to the class.
Delaney Crawford is electric. 10.5, 100 meters, a dynamic athlete, more of the Bryce Perkins type of quarterback, where if he does pull it and run, watch out. And just his ability to extend plays, to make plays, and to score and go the entire distance. Again, with an amazing grade point average, an amazing family, great values. We like the dynamic ability with the personal characteristics and see a huge upside for him.
Davis Lane is one of 3 mid-year enrollees in the class. The other 2 are Stevie Bracey and Devin Chandler. Stevie is from Lovett School in Atlanta, which is also the alma mater of Nick Jackson, who's done great things here. What attracted you to Stevie as a player and a person?
Yeah, production, and the school is something we would call a profile school. And he and Nick Jackson, if they're lined up side by side, they'll look like brothers or twins, and how they play, how they tackle, their command presence, their leadership, but their preparation for UVA as well. Wow, amazing people. And so Stevie fits UVA in every regard and a really, really good football player. I love his presence. I love his durability. I love his physicality. I love his production, as I've already mentioned. But I also love his preparation. And from that school and having Nick Jackson, we already know what that's going to look like. And this is the next version of that.
Devin Chandler will come here with 3 years of eligibility from Wisconsin. Virginia was one of his finalists the first time around, I believe. He's also, in addition to being a wide receiver, I believe he's a talented return specialist.
He is, and I still remember Devin on his visit as a high school player, and Coach Higgins and I sitting with him, and it was basically down to us in Wisconsin. And he ultimately chose Wisconsin. I thought at that time he would be a better fit with us. And so when he became available, it was an easy choice. Exceptional wide receiver, fast, athletic, dynamic, very good hands, and great after the catch. And we need a returner as well. And so that Devin is a skilled returner also, with 3 years of eligibility, really addresses a need, but also addresses it with a level of competency that is really growth-oriented for him and us. And Coach Higgins, again, has built a great relationship with Devin. He knows that this is the place for him. Really excited, as any receiver would be, at the chances of Brennan coming back, and already knows not only the system we were in, but is excited about the system Coach Elliott will bring, and so a lot of upside and a lot of potential there.
Xavier Brown is from Lexington, Kentucky, and this week he was named the Gatorade Player of the Year for his state. I think his team made it to the state final before it lost for the first time. He put up impressive numbers as a running back in high school. Is he comparable in his skill set to anyone who's here?
I'm not sure comparable, but he plays football. And so Keaton is a football player. Xavier is very good out of the backfield. He can line up on the slot and catch the football. He tells me he can throw, but he does a lot of things. He's very versatile. And I like players that are versatile and productive, and capable to contribute in multiple ways, and that's what he is. And again, a really good student, an amazing person, and pretty high honor when you look at what his peers and the coaches and others think of him, and lights up the room when he comes in, and just a joy to be around.
The class includes 2 players from Chattanooga, Tennessee, Trey McDonald as a linebacker, Carson Gay as a tight end. They play at different schools, but I believe they know each other. Did that synergy kind of help get them both here?
Yeah, I'm not sure that influenced them coming, but a fun relationship to see develop. Trey McDonald, a great lacrosse player also, and just everything about him. Any kind of helmet he could wear to play a sport, he's going to put on that helmet. He loves contact. When he came on his official visit, there's gainers off the side of the pool, and he's just wired to play football. And so how and who he is exactly the type of player I like to coach on defense, and it's all gas and no brakes, which is really fun at an amazing school that's so challenging. And he's got this kind of split personality happening of aggression and then academic modeling, which is unreal. And then Carson, wow, somewhere between a flex Y and a tight end. So length and size and speed and the ability to be a great receiver. and athleticism, in so many ways, not the same size as Jelani, and not the same elusiveness or maybe versatility as KT, but somewhere in between that. And we've coached players like him at throughout our career as a staff, and wow, they've been successful. So huge upside, especially in the receiving game for him.
Two of the high school players who signed today are wide receivers. Both stand around 6'5". First one I'll ask you about is Dakota Twitty, who's from North Carolina. Dakota has been absolutely steadfast, I believe, in his commitment to Virginia from day one. What has impressed you about him?
Well, as a football player, you've already mentioned size, but very good hands. I think exceptional production. But we like big targets at wideout, and we like capable players, and we like physical players. And we think that's the next step as for growth in our offense, but also for college football. Those matchups are hard. And as a defensive coach, we know they're hard, and so we're presenting and attracting as many players as possible for that to happen.
Sean Wilson is another big target. He's from Brooklyn, New York. I know he's dealing with an injury now, but what is his upside?
I don't know where it is, other than it's beyond what I could think. So we don't put a limit on it, but it's off the chart. Another very big, physical, active, fast, talented football player that's a great person. And so when you consider the chance of maybe Lavelle and Dakota and goes by JR being on the field all at the same time, in addition to Dontavian, as well as Devin, there starts to be a pretty powerful combination from quarterback to those players. And again, a lot of that, I would say a lot of the credit should go to Coach Hagens for identifying and attracting and building that room.
Last but certainly not least is Will Bettridge, a kicker from Gulliver Prep in Miami, which is a program that's been very good to UVA. The head coach there is Earl Sims, who played linebacker here. Mandy Alonso is a Gulliver Prep alum, as is Deshaun Perry. Will comes with a lot of accolades for a high school kicker, doesn't he?
I don't think you can have more. So every game or thing you could be invited to, or every award you could get, he has, and points matter. And so, wow, was I proud of Brendan Farrell this year and what he did for our program. This now becomes someone targeted early on that has a great chance, again, to fit perfectly at UVA and have elite production at a position that adds points, and points determines outcome. And so proud of Will, but also just really excited for what he's going to bring.
How much of an opportunity have you had to discuss these players with Tony Elliott?
So I'm spending an hour or so per day right now with Tony every morning, just talking about everything in our program, which is pretty unique in college football. I want this program to succeed, to continue to become, to thrive, and from our current roster to all of our staff to every part of support group, including the recruits, right? That was early on. And so when asked, I gave my assessment for every single player, and that gave a point of reference then to establish wherever Tony chose to go with it.
For any personnel moves going forward, whether that be picking up players from the transfer portal or signing more players in February, will those be determined by Coach Elliott and his staff?
From this point forward, and really from the time of my announcement until Tony was announced, right? That was those were all my decisions. But once Tony was announced, right, that in moving forward for personnel decisions, those become his decisions. After acknowledging what commitments we had and what evaluations were already in place, right? But every other decision from this point forward regarding personnel and recruiting is his.
One final question. When the early signing day was implemented several years ago, there was a lot of initial positive feedback. I think in the years that have followed, we've seen some unintended consequences that may not be as good. Do you see this as something that could be changed, the calendar altered, or do you think this is here to
No,
stay.
it doesn't work. The calendar needs to be revised. The bowl season, how that works, coaching changes, how that works, the transfer portal, how that's working, the timing with a signing date in mid-December, none of that is aligning to allow the appropriate responses, the most educated decisions, or the roster management that needs to happen at the best level that it could. And so the calendar, in my opinion, needs a complete redesign, as well as the portal timing, as well as the chance for players to decide when to decide, for coaches to know that, and so the rosters can be balanced and managed before the first opportunity to sign. And all that's happening at the same time right now, which is going to lead to more mistakes and more portal entries. And it doesn't need to be that way if we would just look harder at the timing.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm Jeff White from VirginiaSports.com, and I'm here with UVA's new head football coach, Tony Elliott. Coach, this is your first signing day. You did not really put this class together, but what are your thoughts on this group of 10 young men?
First, just really excited to welcome them to the family. I know that Coach Mendenhall and his staff spent a tremendous amount of time recruiting these young men. I was able to spend some time with Coach Bronco and just talk about how they fit within the program, get a better feel. Had a chance to have a Zoom conversation with most of them, just outlining Virginia football going forward. So it's a different signing day than what I'm used to, but this unique situation. But we're coming out of 2020 and 2021. Nothing's been as we thought. But just really excited for these young men to fulfill a dream. Right, they all started on this journey and dreamed about this day. So excited for them and welcome them to the family.
What do you think it says about these players that they decided to honor their commitments that were made, to another coaching staff?
Oh, unbelievable. In this day and age, it just shows that these young men are full of character. They understand why they made the decision. They're committed to the University of Virginia. They didn't necessarily commit to a coach. I know that they had tremendous relationships with Bronco and his staff, but it just shows that they came to Virginia because they fell in love with the University of Virginia, and being a part of the football program is just a piece of that.
You will have opportunities to augment this class in the coming months. Do you expect this group to significantly grow, whether with more high school signees or players from the transfer portal?
Definitely tomorrow's going to be a different day because we're going to have to step back and see the numbers positionally. And I know there's some guys right now that are kind of making decisions on whether they're going to stay or whether they're going to transfer out. So definitely got to make sure that we protect the program by having the right number of scholarship players at each position to have the appropriate depth to be able to go out and prepare for the season. Don't know what that combination will be. Obviously now it's kind of my vision going forward. So it's going to be fun to kind of piece those two together.
You and Coach Mendenhall have each mentioned how this is a unique situation. You've had opportunities each day to meet and talk with each other. What's that been like to build a relationship with him and talk about these players and coaches in the program and existing players?
Oh, man, I think 5 years from now I'm going to look back and say that these are probably the two best weeks of my coaching career, especially with this transition. And I remember when we first met Coach Bronco, and really he spent more time talking to my wife, which at the time now I didn't quite, because I'm thinking, hold on, I'm the coach, but he's trying to get her ready for this transition. And 3 days in, I'm like, okay, now I see, his approach and why he was having that conversation, and just the appreciation for the perspective and the experience that he has, and being able to help me process, these new experiences that I'm going through. So it's just been invaluable, and I can't thank him enough. And it just speaks to his character. Obviously, he cares deeply about the Virginia football program. He cares deeply about this university, and he wants to see the program be successful. And he's willing to invest his time when he doesn't have to help me continue to learn and grow, so that I can be prepared to take it to the next level.
The early signing period has been around, early signing day has been around for several years now. I think it's become apparent that there are some unintended consequences that maybe people did not anticipate when it was put in place. What are your thoughts about it as it exists right now, and would you like to see some changes to the calendar or the way it's constructed?
In terms of the calendar and the way it's constructed, I don't have enough information as a head coach to really have an opinion on that. But just from my coaching experience and seeing it, it's good for some, and then for others, there are unintended consequences. I think about where I'm coming from. Those guys are committed, in the summer. And so they're ready to sign in December. And then there's guys that are still undecided. And then they have an opportunity to decide or wait. And then now you have coaching changes where young men are impacted, days before they're set to sign. And then you have the dead period for 3 days into signing day. So there's so many different variables that you got to manage. And for me, just the unintended consequences that I worry about is just the impact that it has on young people, making decisions, quickly. Because they feel like they may not have an opportunity to go to a particular place if they don't make it. Then you have transfers, that are in the equation. And so then coaches got to make decisions. Do I supplement my roster, with guys that got experience? And really the ones that I feel like are impacted and unintended are the younger high school kids because there's less spots when you start talking about the transfer portal and signing day and filling up rosters. So there's definitely a bunch of unintended consequences. And only thing I'd like to say if I was going to change something is just let's do what's best for the student athlete, right? Let's do what's best for the high school student and make it as much common sense to it as possible so that we can eliminate some of those unintended consequences.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.